Hello, 7th grade math students. We are doing a little bit of a review this week just to start off after the long break, just in order for us to refresh our brains on adding, subtracting, and multiplying fractions, okay? So if we look into this, we're just going to go through a couple of quick examples here, nothing too stressful or too concerning, and then you'll be able to get into the practice pretty quickly today. Please make sure you're writing your name at the top of this packet. If you did not receive a packet, make sure you're doing this on a blank sheet of paper. Make sure you're also completing all of what I'm doing in the guide notes as well. I've seen a couple of packets come back to me with just the answers, and that's not acceptable. That's not what I'm asking you to do with the guide notes. It looks like you just fast forwarded through the video and just found the answers and then moved on. Make sure you're showing your work in the practice problems as well. That's also important. It just shows me that you're doing the work and not just putting it into a calculator. So let's look at example number 1. We're just adding and subtracting fractions with like and unlike denominators. Just gonna go through a couple examples of adding and subtracting, and then one of multiplying as well. So we look at this, I can add them right off the bat because they have the same denominator. 8 over 12 plus 2 over 12. That gives me 10/12. I know that they're both even, so I can simplify them by dividing by 2, and I get 5/6. And that's my final answer for that one. If I look down here to my next one, I see that I have unlike denominators. So I know I need to change them right off the bat. If I try to change them, I can't find a number besides multiplying them by each other. So this side I'm going to multiply by 5, since that's the denominator over here. And then this fraction I'm going to multiply by 4, since that's the denominator on this side. What I get then is 1 times 5 gives me 5. Both my bottoms are going to be 20. And then 2 times 4 is 8. I can then add it straight across the top. The bottom stays the same. 5 plus 8 gives me 13 over 20. I can't reduce any farther from 13 over 20, so this is my final answer. We go down to our second part of example 1. I'm just subtracting fractions in this problem. If I look, I see I have a whole number here, so I need to make that into a fraction. Simplest way to put a whole number into a fraction is just to put it over 1. So now I have 9 over 1 minus 6 over 12. I can't do the subtracting right off the bat, but I can make this into a 12 really easy by just multiplying it by 12. I then end up with 108 over 12 minus 6 over 12. Now this is going to give us a very large answer. I'm going to show you a different way to do this problem here in a second, which then gives us 102 over 12, which that looks like a lot of a big mess to try to figure out how many 12s fit into 102. So I'm going to show you a different way to do it, okay? If I know that 6 12s is less than 1, let's just take it away from 1 then instead. So if I just take out 1 from my 9, my whole number is 8, okay? So if I have one whole minus 6 over 12. I took out this whole so I can put it and use it here for my fraction. I'm just going to multiply this by 12 in order to show that I have a whole and I can subtract. 12 over 12 minus 6 over 12 gives me 6/12. Now that's the fraction that pairs with my whole number. So I actually have 8 and 6/12. And now you can say, hey, Mr. Anderson, I know that 6/12, 6 is exactly half of 12. You're right. So my fraction is actually going to be 1/2. 8 and 1/2 is my answer there. If I have a 1 with like denominators here, 47 over 48 minus 5 over 48. 47 take away 5 gives me 42. My bottom stays the same. I can see that it's 42 over 48. I know both those numbers are divisible by 6 because I can do 6 times 7, which gives me 48, and 6 times 8, which gives, or 6 times 7 gives me 42, and 6 times 8 gives me 48. So I can reduce it down to 7/8. We flip our page here. we have some multiplication problems. These multiplication problems we can just multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom. So let's go ahead and do that. 5 times 4 gives me 20. 3 times 12 gives me 36. I can reduce that. I know that both those numbers are divisible by 4, because 5 times 4 gives me 20, and 9 times 4 gives me 36. So I can divide each by 4, which gives me a new fraction, a reduced one of 5/9. Again, multiplying fractions, I can multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom. If I go down to example 2 of this part here. Multiplying fractions. If I have a fraction or a number that's a whole number multiplied by a fraction, I can just put that whole number over 1. And then just multiply straight across. Now I see that I have a negative times by a positive, so I know my answer is going to be negative at the end of this. 3 times 6 gives me 18. It's going to be a negative 18. 1 times 10 is 10. I can take out one of my whole 10s there. Okay, this 18 is larger than 10. Took out one whole. The fraction I'm left with then is 8/10. I have negative 1 and 8/10. We can reduce this by just simply dividing each side by 2. And then I end up with 4/5. Negative 1 and a 4/5 is my answer there. We go down to our next one here. I can see that I have two negatives multiplied by each other. Since it's going to be a negative times a negative, we know that they're just going to become positive. So I can just multiply them as if they are positive right off the bat, because I know I'm going to get a positive answer. 3 times 4 gives me 12. 9 times 8 gives me 72. I know that 72 is divisible by 12 because I know 6 times 12 gives me 72. And then obviously 12 is also divisible by 12. Divide each of them out, and I get 1/6. I'll rewrite this so it looks nice and pretty. You get 1/6. In your practice today, you have a variety of adding and subtracting fractions as well as multiplying fractions. I think I have adding, multiplying, and then subtracting fractions here. You only have 9 problems to complete today, so it shouldn't be too hard. And this is all review again from what we worked on the past week before Thanksgiving break. When you're finished with that, make sure it goes back in your red folder for us to work on Friday. Thanks, guys.